Right, hello there. This is going to be a bit off the cuff because I'm more just making notes for personal use, or while I was making notes for personal use, I thought it'd be worth recording this and capturing this because it might be useful to other people, and also it just might be fun to have videos in my journal for a bit. I might share this. I'm undecided right now. But what I wanted to talk about today, typically I talk about indie hacking and things like that, where I'm kind of thinking about building a business by myself in my bedroom, or you might be doing the same, and I kind of share stuff about like cost per acquisition and stuff like that. But on the day to day, obviously I'm a consultant, so I go into other businesses and I kind of support with different bits of the business. Traditionally, more digital marketing, so thinking about attracting clients and potentially attracting team members. And now at the moment, this current project I'm on, it's more an operational role, thinking about how do you grow the organization from the kind of granular details that form the structure that then everyone else gets to see, play with, and interact with. And so I'll talk a little bit about what that journey has been like and making notes from that, and then what my perspective is now and how I'm trying to kind of gather those different projects, tasks, and things that I've been doing into a cohesive idea that I can then communicate with others, but also can go back to kind of refresh my mind on. So what I've got here, what you're looking at, is thinking about the business from how do we drive the growth of a people business, and the idea being when we think about any type of business, we typically just kind of focus on, particularly because I'm more traditionally working with product, we kind of focus on how do we acquire customers and then how do we get the product to them. But my focus has always traditionally been how do we acquire more customers profitably. So that needs me to have some idea of the rest of the business in terms of like what the costs of COGS traditionally, so cost of goods sold, but that also has an impact on what we're able to do to grow the business, because the higher the margin means the more opportunity there is to grow the team and the infrastructure needed. But focusing on a people business, it's not too distant, but I think that there's other things that I haven't spent as much time thinking about partly in the past, which are now at the forefront of my mind, particularly in this area here, where it comes to retaining team members. So what I'm going to talk about is at a high level how I've been viewing growing the organization, what my opinions and thoughts are, and I'm going to do that from the perspective of thinking about the journey as people come into the business, both from the team's perspective and the client's perspective, and my perspective being if we can do right by the team will eventually take care of the clients. It's not necessarily a new idea. Obviously, Richard Branson talks about this extensively with the Virgin Group, but that's kind of a perspective I've adopted, and I think it's very true based on my experience. So, digging in, obviously as well, this will form the beginning of an ongoing conversation where I'll be able to dive into lots of these things in a bit more depth. I'll just kind of touch on some ideas at the minute. So at the beginning, what I'm thinking about is how do we align these two, the team and the clients, to allow for a growing business, so the business kind of can not necessarily organically grow, but we know where to look at for issues that are preventing the growth. And obviously if this is all right and all correct and everything is aligned, then the growth should be something that's self-sustaining, if you like. So kicking things off, thinking about the attraction. So the attraction part of this diagram is thinking about, we don't just have to attract clients, but we also have to attract the team. And we want those to be aligned from day one. It's a journey where they're going on it together. So when we're thinking about attracting staff, we want to be presenting a similar story, just different aspects of that story. So, or maybe if you want to think of it as the same coin, but the team get to see one side of the coin and the clients get to see another side of the coin. So what I'm currently working on is aligning that brand so the story is consistent. So let's say the story is about growth. We want to kind of help grow our clients' businesses, but equally we want to grow the team members. So that alignment shows that, okay, someone might come in on day one, very basic version of our product or service that they're taking on. And from the client's perspective, that's kind of obviously their entry into our organization, their first interaction with us. But equally, when you think about the team member, they might be coming in at a more junior level, and we hope that they will grow alongside our client base, eventually taking on more skills, taking on more experience that might be able to help them serve customers better and better over their time there. So at first, when we're thinking about the attraction, what we want to do is kind of align those stories, but also align the types of people that are coming into the organization to work out if they're going to be the type of people that will want to stay and they'll want to grow alongside our client base. So that's just some of the ideas that we're thinking about of attraction. So that might be thinking about the brand that you're presenting to the clients, but also working out if that brand actually aligns with the stories that you're telling the people that you're trying to attract to the team. And also thinking about, are those a good mix? So do the people you bring into the business really want to work with that client base and really want to work on those specific types of services that you're offering? Because getting that mix right is like, maybe that person's very technical and likes doing technical work, but doesn't like interacting with clients, then that fit might not be right. Equally, you've got to think about, is this person going to keep telling the same story that you've been telling the clients as you were attracting them? Are they going to keep fulfilling and delivering on that story throughout the journey that the client has with your business? Next, we wanted to think about evaluating. So if you think about it, we've hit the attraction stage and it's worked. We've got someone in the interview, or we've got someone in the consultation, and the next step is to actually evaluate and sell at the same time. So we're thinking about, does this, from the team's perspective, does this person have the right skill set to work here? Be it soft skills, be it technical skills, be it the ability to take on the best practices that you have within the business. And also thinking about, what impact will that person have on the rest of the team? Will they come and challenge that team to be stronger? Will they come and slow down the team? And things like that. But also being very granular with that. So thinking about the tests that you do as you're kind of interviewing, are you thinking about the culture fit? Are you thinking about the technical fit? Are you testing how well they learn and develop? If they're even interested in personal development to kind of grow themselves alongside the career that you want to be presenting them with. Equally, from the perspective of the clients, you want to be thinking, does this client have the scope to present the opportunity to the team member that person can grow in that direction they want to go in? So for example, if you're running a service business that runs events, does this client come in with it on day one wanting to do an event for 50 people and then eventually wanting to grow to events with several thousand people? That person you've attracted to your business may want to end up being the kind of person that runs an event for several thousand people, and getting that alignment right, getting that opportunity for them both to grow together right, is super important. But that comes out from understanding in your evaluation stage if that story, if those ideas connect. And equally, when you're thinking about your clients, typically most people just want to take on any client, but actually when you think about it, and for the process of onboarding, and then which will tie in quite well to what I'm about to say, and retaining, you actually want to be thinking, is this client going to fit into our best practices? Are they going to have lots of deviations where they need extra support and lots of work and lots of time? Or are they going to kind of fit quite nicely with a bit of training once the onboarding process has gone through? Are they going to fit nicely into the processes and the best practice that your team can deliver on efficiently? If you end up in a situation where it's very much of a large percentage of your client base is very much wanting custom or bespoke or difficult or challenging situations to be worked through on a monthly basis, that slows down the team, it slows down your productivity, and also can be quite frustrating for the team member, and that can lead to other issues throughout the clients that they're supporting. So you want to think about that at the valuation stage. Next, I want to talk about onboarding. So the idea being, you've attracted team members and clients that will work together throughout your business quite well. They've gone through an evaluation, so they understand that they do want to be here, they do want to grow in a similar way, and they want to support each other through that. Obviously, the client needs to support the team member, and the team member needs clients to work on. So that looks like there's going to be a good fit. Then the next stage you want to think about is the onboarding. And the onboarding is crucial because it sets the tone for what kind of employee, again starting with the employee perspective, what kind of employee you're expecting them to be over time, and it's setting their expectations of what they think they're going to get out of the organisation. If you've got a huge bank of resources to train that team member, to teach that team member, to coach them in the direction that lets them know they're going to be supported, and there's resources that they can tap into whenever they're a bit confused or frustrated or don't really know what to do, that sets the tone of you're going to be supporting them throughout their journey. If you, on the other hand, just kind of fling them into the chaos, and they don't have those support systems, they don't know who to speak to, they don't know where to tap into for that knowledge or the resources or templates or what have you, they can feel lost, overwhelmed, confused, but also it's hard to measure how well they're doing. You don't have the benchmarks to understand, are they growing in line with expectations? How do you highlight where they might be struggling in a way that's easy for different line managers to spot and support on? And also thinking about maybe, is your training good enough in specific areas? If you haven't got those frameworks and those tools and those resources in place, it's almost impossible to understand. And that's frustrating just for the line managers and the team members, and that will systemically grow within the business as a frustration and cause disasters in the medium and long term. So you want to be thinking about, when you're onboarding the person, what are you training them to be on day one, and how are you training to take on their role, but how are you positioning your organisation in their mind for what their longer term journey is going to be. And there are ways that we can be doing that, where it's that traditional kind of, here is your line manager, here is someone that you can speak to as a kind of maybe a mentor or something like that, depending on how your organisation works. And typically we have buddy systems quite a lot in a lot of businesses, but also through to, you know, systematically training, whether you have onboarding courses that are recorded or pre-written, so then you can have that consistent experience offered to all team members as they join, regardless of who their line manager is, regardless of who the people person is at that point in time. And so that's a very interesting thing that I'm playing about with at the moment, and I'm building those onboarding courses. And then from the client's perspective, I think there's something really interesting you can do here that kind of forces a feedback loop. And thinking about your onboarding process for clients, again, that sets the tone for what they're going to experience while they're with you. And it also sets the tone for what's possible with your organisation, and how comfortable they might feel tapping into more resources or potentially asking for more support in time, which is obviously ideally what you want for growth. Equally, one of the things I've been playing about with is the idea that when you're onboarding clients, you train them with systematic materials to expect certain things. And that forces your team members to deliver on those certain things, because otherwise the client begins to ask, why isn't there an alignment between what your training says as the onboarding and then what you're delivering to me? So for example, if we're going back to that events business, if the client manager is saying, okay, we run our events step 1, 2, 3, and those steps are, first we kind of do a reconnaissance on the location, then we look at suppliers, and then we look at getting the staff in. If your onboarding training says first we look for the location, then we look for the staff to see if we've got the right people, and then we look for the resources that we can bring in. If that alignment isn't quite right, your team member is going to look really awkward, or it's going to be really embarrassing if the client already knows to expect the opposing order to what they're suggesting. So that might be an opportunity for quality control. So that onboarding, you've got to think of it both from the perspective of the team member and the clients. And obviously we're hoping that will lead to a good retention strategy. And when we're thinking about retaining people, I think it comes back to, what did we say to them in the beginning? Well, how did we attract them? What story were we telling them? And also, are we delivering on what we want them to add to the business? So when they've come in, we've said that you're going to have a training development program, we're going to be supported in these different ways, and equally they're going to get access to certain types of clients. So when we're retaining the team member, we need to be checking in and helping them understand that we are actually delivering on that, showing them the development plan, and going through their client base, seeing what the dynamics have taken place there. Did they have any frustrating clients in the beginning? Was the client base really simple? What is that situation now? What do they want that client base to look like 6 to 12 months from now? And keeping that story going, keeping that conversation going is crucial, because you don't want the team members' perspective or opinions to be deviating from what is actually going on, but also you want to be sure that you understand how that team member feels, what they're thinking, and where you might have been struggling to deliver on some of those promises you made earlier on in their journey. Super, super important for retaining staff, because when you think about it, you want to be bringing people in, but the company's not going to grow if people are leaving at the same pace that they're coming in. And you also want to be thinking about the structures that take place. So how many team members do you need underneath a certain level of line manager? And then thinking about how does that scale over time, and then what infrastructure is needed to support certain numbers of people. So if you need 4 teams to reach your objective of company growth, how many layers of management above that is needed? What do you need to train those layers of management on? And that's super important for setting the culture, because you don't want to be training your line managers just on, let's say, technical ability and forgetting the culture, because what they teach the team members that come in underneath them might not be in line with what the company's ideals are in terms of understanding not just how to deliver, but also why a certain type of delivery enables the growth that you need, which I'll talk more about another time. And that will come on to my point about the glue, which I'll round up with. So retaining team members obviously is about delivering on the promises, and in line with what you've offered them in terms of growth, what kind of clients and what kind of work they're going to be working with. But equally, when you think about the client base, retaining them, it's about delivering on the promises you make to them. Are you in line with your service level agreements? Are you delivering higher value than you've promised? Are you delivering under that value that you've promised? Are you communicating regularly enough so that the client understands that they are getting the value that you've promised them, or you've spotted up, they could highlight opportunities where they feel like they're not getting the support or the level of service that they want? And keeping those as a loop, keeping that conversation ongoing. So that should be the team member is understanding the client, and you're understanding the client, maybe if you're a bit more higher up in the business, but that conversation should be ongoing. You can have different things in place, like questionnaires and surveys at certain points in the year, but also you want your line managers to be checking in every couple of weeks, just making sure certain clients are happy, making sure the team members are happy and they understand what's going on, no work is getting caught in the backlog, sort of thing. And from the client's perspective, with retaining them, you want to be, over time, slowly building up the value, offering them slightly more services that are in line with what they've been working with, maybe looking for opportunities in their business where you can support in other ways that they might not have been expecting. And that, again, comes back to that back and forth, that conversation, taking a real interest in what the client's dealing with, understanding, how their organisation really works on a day-to-day and what they're trying to deliver in the end to their client base. So if you can kind of keep that conversation going, you'll spot those opportunities, and that keeps your team engaged because they understand that they're developing, they can see that they're adding value, and it's a conversation where it feels like a partnership more than just being a supporting on a very boring or uninteresting, repetitive situation. So you do want to be thinking about that, and that supports both the client retention and the team members retention. And that obviously kind of is very much in line with what I'm talking about here and thinking about developing value. And what we're thinking about here is we might have, when we're attracted that client and team member and done the evaluation, said, look, here's your development plan, here's the technical things we're going to train you on. But also maybe there's some opportunity to think about, well, what does the business need in time? Do we need the team members to always be looking out for new services, new ideas, new things that they can be delivering to that client base, because the client base is evolving and the market is changing over time? So that developing value might not stick to your rigid kind of development framework for technical skills. Maybe you start looking for opportunities to grow those people in. Maybe they go out networking on behalf of your business, understanding the marketplace, building relationships that make your business seem stronger and more like a cohesive glue in that ecosystem. Or maybe it's thinking about, okay, how do we empower people to take on their own client base? We support them with services and then kind of documentation or legal support and stuff like that, but they start to take ownership of the client base and start to take out some revenue from that and run their own P&L themselves, their profit and loss account themselves. And that can be super empowering, but also when you think about that, that means you end up with a dynamic, organically growing organisation. People are coming in, they're delivering on what you needed them to, then they went through the training, they delivered for a period of time, but also they're helping the business grow in line with the market. There's a real alignment there, and they'll want to support the team supporting them in that growth and in going in that direction. Of course, you've got to keep the alignment with the overall objectives of the organisation, but that can be in a really empowering situation to be in. Equally, when we're thinking about the client base, we want to be constantly engaged with them to understand what the dynamics that they need are, and how are they evolving, and where are they going. A lot of industries are seeing a lot of automation come in, and so maybe there's an opportunity to start thinking about having that conversation with your clients. Maybe they're going to need less and less of your time in terms of manpower, but maybe there's some things you can be bringing in to help automate some of the processes to make communications a bit more seamless, to kind of reduce the number of resources needed to deliver on your service. And those can be really empowering situations, but also if you think about it, your company always should be doing that But you as the leader shouldn't just have that whole burden on yourself. You should be able to have a group of people within your organization that are constantly keeping an eye on the market, constantly feeding you good information, but also interested in actioning that, interested in developing on that themselves as individuals, but also helping a client base grow. You know, if you can kind of spot opportunities that a client can kind of take advantage of automation or take advantage of other things that happen in the ecosystem, that means you've got a solid partnership in place where it makes sense for you to grow together. And I think that those are really important to do, but it's super hard. And one of the reasons why I wanted to start off here is I wanted to start elaborating on what are the challenges at each level here and what the impact might be. But also because I think that the core part of this conversation, the glue that holds all of this together, regardless of how well you are, how good you are at designing systems yourself, the glue that really makes this work is culture. It's not enough to design the systems. It's not enough to have great templates. It's not enough to have a good training and onboarding course. You've got to have the culture within the business that keeps those things going at a good standard, but also looks for an opportunity to constantly develop on that. Your team need to know that they can input. There is a way for understanding where they're delivering good ideas, and there's actioning of those good ideas. And that culture should organically grow and develop itself. It should look for better onboarding opportunities. It should look for better ways to kind of retain that staff, and the staff should be looking for opportunities to help themselves grow and feel like they're adding value and they're growing, and it's something that they want to be doing themselves. It shouldn't be something that's just dictated from the people at the top. It should be an opportunity to develop better resources, better tools, be more efficient from the team, because they understand the detail of the day-to-day workings. When you're at the top, you get a certain view, and hopefully you've kind of grown with the organization so you understand what's happening at the baseline, and then you can grow and build out the functions and the tools and systems needed to support that. But those things underneath you will change, and without a good culture of keeping that information flowing, actually taking action on new things that you want to roll out, and the team understanding that that's what keeps the organization running, it can all fall apart. And that's why it's super crucial to make sure that you've got the right culture in place. And that for me is the key to growing a people business right now, based on what I'm learning and what I'm experiencing. And I just wanted to make a note of that. It would have been super expensive to write about that, so I thought capturing it on video might be fun and interesting. Hopefully other people find that interesting too if I publish it. Thank you.